Hello, in this video we want to take a look at how to use Excel's pivot table tool. We have here the restaurant data set, in which there are 300 different restaurants who were given ratings. Someone went in, ate a meal, rated the meal as either good, very good, or excellent, and recorded the meal price. Now, the first thing to notice with this data set is, in the first row are labels. The data does not start till row 2. We have labels in the very first row. That's necessary for pivot table. Also notice that there are no empty columns, no empty rows. If I scroll this down all the way to the bottom, you can look at every single row and see that there's no empty row all the way to the bottom to the end of the data set. Okay, that's necessary to use pivot table. No empty columns, no empty rows. The first row consists of the names, labels for your data set. Well, let's get started. The first thing to do is to click inside the data set. Not absolutely necessary, but it's a big help. So I've selected a cell. I've clicked any cell somewhere inside the data set that we want to use. Then we come up to the Insert menu, and the very first item in the Insert menu is Pivot Table. We can just click right on the Pivot Table icon, and we get the Create Pivot Table dialog. First off, we see here the area has it automatically chosen from A1 down to C301. If this isn't correct, you can reselect. Then the pivot table, where do we want it to go? New worksheet in this workbook is fine, so we click OK. All right, and this is the Create Pivot Table worksheet, the screen. When you first see it, it's a little bit confusing, but it's not bad. First off, let's take a note here and see that our data is now in this worksheet, and we are now on a new worksheet. I can click over to the data. There's our original data. I can click back to this worksheet. All right. Now, to create our pivot table, we use the window, the section over here on the right. First off, for quality rating, I want to put that in rows. So I take the quality rating, I press down the left mouse key, and I drag down to row label. And there we go. On the right, we see that we have excellent, good, very good. Those are in alphabetical order right now. We'll see later how to change the order of those, the excellent, good, and very good. But right now, we want to we want to count how many restaurants were excellent, how many good, how many very good. So restaurant now goes in the body of the report. In the body, that's here, the values for the table. Okay, whoops. Now, we said we had a total of 300 restaurants, yet we have those huge numbers there. Well, the problem is, we come back and look at the data. The problem is that the restaurant names were just numbers. Now, this is meant to be just names, labels, not real numbers, but Pivot Table doesn't know that. So what it's done is, we see here, down in the body here, it says that it summed it. Okay, it's adding up these numbers. We don't want that. We want to count. So we come over here, we click, right-click, and I come to the value field, settings, come here, and instead of summing it, we want to count. Okay, how many of each kind of data? There are other options too. You could take an average, etc. if you wanted, but we want the count. Okay, and there we go. We have a count. Let me shorten this up a bit. So we know that 66 restaurants were excellent, 84 good, and 150 very good. Okay, now we want to know by price of the meal. Okay, so in our columns, let's take meal price over here, and I'm going to drag that down to column labels. And there we see our column labels. So for $10 meals, none were excellent. I guess too cheap for that. 6 good, 1 very good. By the way, let me click somewhere, anywhere. And notice that when I click outside the data table area, the pivot table area, that on the right, that pivot table creation area disappears. And we have just our worksheet here. Also notice that we still have these totals over here. There were 66 excellent, 84 good, and 150 very good. However, right now to have every meal listed, $10, $11, $12, that's a bit too detailed. We'd like to group this. So I'm going to click back inside. We get back our pivot table creation area. Then I'm going to go up to the labels here, the row labels, and I'm going to right click. I right click and come down to group. Click on this, and Excel, it does it very nicely for us. It says, okay, the minimum's 10, the maximum's 48. How about grouping them 10 each? Does that seem okay? Yes, it does seem okay. That seems fine. So I'm going to click OK. And there we have it. Okay, we're almost finished with this table. $10 to $19. We had 2 excellent, 42 good, and 34 very good, etc. We can see our totals in column F, the total number of restaurants for each category. In row 8, we can see the totals for each meal range, how many meals fell into each meal range. And over here in F8, we have the total, the overall total, 300 restaurants. The final thing to do is to change the order of excellent, good, very good. Let's see, this is ordinal data, so I come over to excellent, right click, and I have move. And here we have our options. I can move excellent one down, or actually we want it to go to the very end. So we select. So good, very good, excellent. Let me bring this in a bit. There's our pivot table. I'll click outside so we have just the pivot table. That's it. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Good luck pivot tabling.